Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert. You're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Marianne Hamilton. Marianne Hamilton grew up in Sacramento, California, attended the college in San Francisco Bay Area, and lived in Silicon Valley until she moved to St. George 8 years ago. She is an award-winning journalist for 40 years, covered a wide range of topics: technology, food, wine, film, TV production, education, health and wellness, and active aging. Her move to SG was prompted by her participation in the Huntsman World Senior Games, the world's largest multi-sport competition for athletes 50 plus. The games are held in SG each October and draw roughly 12,000 athletes. Since moving there, she has become a race director for the games, a role that she fulfilled at the national level for the National Senior Games. She's been a race walker for 20 years and has earned 43 gold medals in senior game competitions. Wow, that's a lot of medals.
It's kind of crazy. That's the current amount. I mean, maybe the final amount. Who knows? Who knows?
Wow. So, and we actually met in Las Vegas. I was speaking there at a luncheon, Bruce Marin's celebrity luncheon, and you were there with some other senior pageant queens. So not only are you an athlete, but you're a queen. So I would just love to get into your story so people can know who you are and like tell us how you started out and how you get to be doing what you're doing now.
Thanks, Dr. Leonard. I'd be happy to. And first of all, it's a real pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for the invitation. It was wonderful meeting you and hearing you speak at Bruce's luncheon. Your presentation was fascinating, and I just loved connecting with you. Indeed, I was there with the other ladies from the senior pageant group, which was sort of a long, circuitous route for me to get there. I've actually, as you noted in my bio, I've been a journalist my entire life, and I grew up about as far from pageantry as you could possibly imagine. I was a shy, nerdy bookworm and acne and glasses and 50 extra pounds and all that. And, I'd never been to a pageant, much less been in one. I never just thought that was on my radar screen. But over time, in my 40s, I decided I really didn't want to be, that person anymore. And I started jogging kind of slowly, and then going a little faster. And as things played out, I ended up having some neck surgery, so I wasn't able to jog anymore. So I took up the sport of race walking and trained with a couple of experts, a couple of Olympians, and a guy who won a gold medal in the Pan Am Games. And they helped me with my technique. And then took up that sport. And one night, my brilliant husband, Doug, was looking for places where I could compete because there aren't that many race walking events anywhere. It's a pretty esoteric sport. And he was Googling race walking, and up came something called the Huntsman World Senior Games. And even though I really kind of gagged on the word senior, I said, well, yeah, we definitely qualify. We're over 50. That was the cutoff minimum age for the senior games. So we signed up and we competed in 2012, I believe. And it was just, 2011 in St. George, Utah. And we were living in the Bay Area at that time in California. And our experience was just absolutely superb. It just was going into a parallel universe with all these fit, happy, healthy people our age. I just thought, this is amazing. This is fabulous. And we wanted to come back. So we did for several years. And the third year, we decided to move to St. George permanently because it's just such a beautiful place. And there's a very, very strong ethic and culture of fitness and health here. And incredible walking trails and hiking trails. And people come here from all over the world for vacation. So we've been very, very happy. And since moving here, a lot of other things have happened. I started a new career as a fitness instructor, which was not something I ever anticipated. That's been really, really fun. I work primarily with seniors, which I adore. And then through that, one day I heard about something called the Miss Senior Universe pageant, which who knew? I ran into a lovely woman at the National Senior Games, and she was wearing a sash and crown, and her sash said Miss Senior Utah. And I thought, oh, that's where I live. I'd like to find out about that. And we spoke briefly. And then I ran into her again at another event, and she encouraged me to go onto the website and investigate. And I did. And I was really, really, really intrigued. But I thought, yeah, no, there's no way. that's, that's not something I could do. But I really, it kind of stuck in my brain. So I did call the pageant director, James Kimsey, and we had a great discussion, and he was very encouraging. And he said, check it out, see what you think. So I did. I went online and I applied, and I didn't tell my husband for about 2 months because I was sure he would think I had lost my senses completely. And so when I finally did, we were floating around the pool one night in the middle of the summer, and I said, I've got to tell you something. And he said, "You're leaving me? What?" I said, no. There's this thing. It's called the Miss Senior Universe and blah, blah. And I got about a half a sentence out, and he said, "You have to do it. You have to do it." And he was so enthusiastic and so supportive. So I entered that year in 2019. And I was horrible. I did not do well. Again, I had never been to a pageant before. I had no idea what to expect. And I froze up during my talent competition. I have no talent. I'm not a singer. I'm not a dancer. I'm not a performer. I don't play an instrument. And so, but I am a writer. So I had said that I would like to write a poem about competing in a pageant for the first time, which I did. And I got through about a third of it. And then I had a senior moment. It just went away. It was gone. And so I all of a sudden they were playing the playoff music, and I remembered the last line and said that and kind of slunk off the stage, and it was really awful. But everybody was so lovely and so encouraging and so supportive, and I made terrific friends. And so I thought, perhaps I would do it again. So then in 2020, I didn't compete, but I went to Las Vegas to sort of help backstage with the other ladies. And they gave me a nice title, which was Senior Games Ambassador, because of my connection with the Senior Games. So I've been doing a lot of work with the Senior Games through that and all their parades and things. And then last year, because of COVID, the pageant had to get pushed. So we ended up doing it in January of this year. And I elected to compete again. And I went home with this. So.
Yes. And it looks perfect on you.
There we go.
Perfectly. Okay. Yes. Congratulations.
So, thank you very much. I'm kind of, it's big and heavy, and it's very wonderful. And I'm just profoundly honored and blown away completely. So the thing about our pageant is that it's not what you would think of as a typical beauty pageant. First of all, the women are all over 60. It is not that we are parading around in swimsuits and high heels, which is really not a good idea, at our age. And so we are instead celebrating women of a certain age who have made contributions to their communities and to society at large, and just being very accomplished in the years they've had on this planet. We have my predecessor was mayor of a city in the state of Washington. We have a chancellor of a university. We have several ladies with PhDs and an attorney and a concert pianist and an opera singer. And they're all very, very, very accomplished, as would be, appropriate after 60 years on the planet, 60 years plus on the planet. So it is really our motto is embrace, encourage, and empower. And it really is about doing that for both ourselves and for our sister queens, embracing who we are, encouraging each other, empowering each other to be the best we possibly can be at any age. And that really, really strikes a note with me, because I feel very strongly about that, and being fit and healthy, especially at any age. Yeah. Which is a long, long, long explanation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it was great. And, when I saw all of you, there were several of you there at the luncheon. Right. And at my table, there was 3 of the older queens. One was 94. I think one was 92. One was like 80 something. Actually, a couple of them were in their 80s.
Yes. And Ida, Clyda, and Marilyn. Yes.
Yes. And, they looked beautiful. And it's not just the outside though. You could just see the glow of them and the essence of who they are. And that's why they were such a great representation.
It really is senior pageantry. People can laugh about it, but it really is something, we live in a society where women are kind of disposable after the age of 30. I mean, we had the horrible, horrible um, occurrence a couple of weeks ago of one of our 30-year-old beautiful senior queens, I'm sorry, 30-year-old queens who jumped to her death at the age of 30 because she thought that she wasn't, a value anymore. That's just devastating and tragic. I can't imagine being in that mind frame. So, I just think it's really, really important that we celebrate who we are, for sure.
Exactly. And just to kind of go back in the beginning here, where we first started. So you were a journalist for many years.
Yes.
Talk about that. What caused you to go into journalism, and what did you love about it? What did you hate about it? How, how did you like doing that?
It's something I'm still doing. Actually, I'm writing for 3 magazines here in St. George. It was something that was maybe genetic. My mother actually was a writer when I was growing up. She wrote advertising copy for radio and television. And then when she was having all 4 kids, she stayed home and wrote for Ladies Home Journal and 17 and all those magazines of our era. And 2 of my 3 older brothers are also, one's passed away, but they're all writers. And it just was something that it was really normal in my household. We played Scrabble, we played word games, we tried to outdo each other at night with one-liners, and everybody was really, really, we loved words and wordplay. And I kind of thought that's how everybody's houses were. I'd go to friends' houses and it wasn't really that way. Anyway, I've always loved writing. I loved diagramming complex compound sentences when I was in elementary school. The more elaborate, the better. And I loved essays. I was not a good math student. That was a foreign language to me, but I always, got the gold medal in English and whatever. And so I always wanted to channel that into a career in writing. And I worked for the state, which is what you do in Sacramento, California, which is where I grew up. You work for the government in some capacity. And fortunately, I had a boss who recognized that I liked to write and had some writing skills. So he let me write the in-house newsletter for the Department of Motor Vehicles and where I worked. And from that, I was able to kind of parlay that over time into a variety of writing samples, and eventually go to a PR firm and go to work in writing copy for them. And then from there, I was able to sort of make a leap into journalism. I went to work for the San Jose Film Commission, which was it's a very cool organization. There are film commissions throughout the world, and they work with film crews when they come to town to get permits and hire crew members and whatever's needed in a local shoot. And so I worked for the Film Commission in San Jose, and so I was sending in information about what local film crews were doing in the Bay Area or what commercial crews were doing. And I had a byline in a couple of publications, and all of a sudden people started calling me and saying, "Oh, I saw your piece in blah, blah, blah. Could you please write this?" And my career sort of took off that way in the early 80s. And I've been writing ever since and loving it.
Wow. So if someone wanted to get into the journalism world now, like a younger person wanting to get in, how do they do that?
I think the easiest way, not the easiest way, but the most common way now is that people have blogs. And I want to be very careful and not cast aspersions on bloggers, because many of them are really, really wonderful and they're doing a fantastic job. But I think the scariest phrase for me is citizen journalists, because there are a lot of people out there putting out a lot of information that isn't necessarily correct, and a lot of it's not very well written, unfortunately. But that's a really good way to get writing samples together, and you can take that eventually. And in most cases now, most publications want you to have a social media following. They want to have you, being out there on every platform available. And so if you already have that, and you have the ability to shoot some video and do TikTok stuff and all that, all that, so much the better. Those are the kinds of things that are really, really important now, I think, in modern day journalism, which is very, very far removed from what I did when I was, studying that and starting off in the business. It's a whole different world.
Exactly. And like you said, the scary thing is people believe what they see in writing. They
Yes,
see it in
yes.
writing and they believe it, but that doesn't mean it's true.
It has to be, it's true. It's on print or it's on, I found it on Google. Oh my gosh. It is really, really horrifying. Well, you're a doctor, you understand that. And I'm profoundly concerned about our ability to differentiate between what's science and what's just craziness. But that's a whole other discussion.
So what makes a good or excellent piece of writing?
I think it is somebody it's written by somebody, first of all, who has the journalistic, capability and knows sentence structure and grammar and spelling and punctuation. That's hopefully a given. But also it has been not taken at face value. You research your subject matter or the person you're interviewing or the cause or whatever it is, and try and present the most fair, I hate to say fair and balanced, but fair and balanced representation of what that particular point of view is or that particular subject is. So, you can interview somebody who's extremely passionate about what they have to say, and they could be completely wrong. And so it is up to the person writing the piece to do their homework and find out if indeed that is valid, or is there an opposing point of view that perhaps carries more weight. I worked for a chain of newspapers in the Bay Area before we moved out here, and my editor was very, very, adamant that you don't just write a news story and that's it. You have to do your homework and find out both sides. Fortunately, there are good and bad things about living in the digital age. It used to be you'd have to go to the library and go through the card files and find something in a book. Now, 2 clicks you can find abundant information. But unfortunately, a lot of it's really, really, not factually correct. So you have to learn how to have critical thinking skills and differentiate. Is this coming from, the CDC or the NIH, or is this coming from Bob's blog, who was written by your neighbor's, gardener? And gardening is a wonderful, wonderful career, but perhaps you're not entirely qualified to make, scientific recommendations. So it's really part of being a good journalist is having good judgment, I believe, and figuring out when you're receiving the truth and being able to get and sharing that properly. If you don't mind, I need to get a sip of water here. 1 second. There we go. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I know that the body of the writing probably stays pretty similar, but these days we're looking at videos and we watch them for 5 seconds. We have TikTok that we'll look at for 3 seconds.
Exactly.
Are you changing the way you are like doing the intro paragraph or something of the writing so you can actually get people to engage right away and actually want to read the article?
That is the real dilemma, I think, with a lot of journalists now. I'm old school. I love writing, a 3,000, 5,000 piece expository, piece about whatever. American culture has the attention span of a gnat now because of social media and the whole digital realm. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It forces writers to be more concise, to get to the heart of your issue or your point of view or whatever you're reporting on very, very, very quickly. But yes, we at some level there has, it turns into clickbait, which is, I think, a really unfortunate kind of state of affairs. And sometimes I just write something and let my editor put the headline on it and let them decide what's going to get the most eyeballs, if it's online versus in print. And it's a different way of doing business. You have to kind of realize that things are different. And yeah, we're competing against a lot of content out there.
Yes, there's a lot more content. I mean, when I was growing up, I was a bookworm. I still have books everywhere. I've given away hundreds of books and I still have books everywhere. But, a lot of people prefer to listen to their books now. So,
my husband and I are driving to Tucson tomorrow he's doing a half marathon on the weekend, and we love to download audiobooks when we're on road trips, and we listen to books or podcasts, and I crochet blankets, and it's all great. So
Exactly.
we listen to a lot of really wonderful stories that way. I was going to say also that my friends now who are reporters, and I know a number of the local folks, aren't just writers. They are told, you know, here's your cell phone. This is what you're going to go out and take pictures with, or here's a small digital camera or something to capture videos. They really have to be, you know, sort of a Renaissance person when they're out there in the field. It's not just taking a tablet and jotting notes anymore. It's a whole different way of doing business.
Exactly. When you talked about the marathon. So, you said you went to speed walking because,
Oh, yeah.
you had the surgery. So,
Mhm.
but your husband was doing it with you.
Initially, we were, let's see. So what I do is a sport of race walking, which is it's that crazy one where your heel has to, and your toe has to be making contact with the ground at all time. And when your heel strikes the ground, your knee must be straight, and it must remain straight as it passes underneath your body until your other heel strikes, which is what makes that weird hippie shake thing that looks just silly as can be. This is a sidebar. It was an Olympic sport, but it started back in turn of the century with two guys, I'm told, who were in a bar drinking, surprise. And one of them bet the other that he could walk faster than this one could run, and blah, blah. And they came up with this outlandish, sport called race walking. Anyway, that is the sport that I do. And when I met my husband in the year 2000, we started walking together, and he thought he might try race walking. He also had a neck surgery a year after I met him, and a similar neck surgery. He had 3 discs taken out, and he had a metal plate put in his neck, and it was a big, big deal. So he couldn't run for a while either. So we decided to race walk together. It wasn't a great idea for him. He doesn't have quite the flexibility to keep his knee straight, and so he proceeded to get disqualified in a number of races. So in short order, he went back to jogging, and he's back to running now. And even though in theory he shouldn't be doing it, it seems to be fine. He's been doing it now for 20 years, and he has had no residual problems. So it's great. So he's now he calls himself, a long, slow marathoner, and he's doing a half marathon this weekend and an ultra marathon in April, I believe, which will be 36 miles. So
Yeah, that's a lot of miles.
It is a lot of miles, and he'll be 72 this year, so it's kind of amazing.
And what made you decide to get so involved in the race walking as far as becoming directors? And
it just was one of those magic organic things. We were competing here at the Huntsman World Senior Games in St. George for several years. And the first year that we competed, we met the CEO, Kyle Case, who's just a wonderful, wonderful, lovely, supportive man. And he's not 50 yet, so he's not eligible to compete, but that's happening in a couple of years. And he just was so welcoming and warm, and sort of welcomed us into the family. And we met the race directors, Norm and Kathy Frabel, and they welcomed us as well. And within about 2 years, they said, hey, we could use some help. How'd you guys like to help us out? And we said, oh, okay. And so we did, and we became race directors as well. And that's just been so marvelous. Being a part of that race walking and power walking community across the country and actually around the world has just been terrific. We've formed lifelong relationships and see people, even if we just see them every October, you pick right back up where you were before, and it's lovely. And then through our work here in St. George with the Huntsman World Senior Games, the National Senior Games folks asked us if we would also get involved. And in the meantime, my husband and I had founded a nonprofit called the United States Power Walking Association. And the goal with that was to ask the race directors throughout the US of the senior games to add power walking to their sports schedule. As I mentioned, race walking, which is what I do, is more of a technical skill. Power walking is really just walk fast and don't run, and doesn't matter if your knees bent, just keep one foot on the ground at all times and just go as fast as you can. And it's a sport that anybody can do basically at any age. We have people who are in their 80s and 90s competing in power walking. And it has really been a way to increase the number of athletes who can participate and compete in something and empower themselves to be a part of an athletic activity and maybe win some medals in the process. So it's been just fabulous to watch that take shape. And now actually through sort of talking to all these race directors nationwide, power walking is now kind of taking off across the US. So that's exciting.
Yes, well, congratulations on that.
Thank
That's
you.
a huge
Thank you.
feat.
Thank you.
So, yeah, and you yourself, 43 medals. So I know you had great coaches because they were Olympic, athletes, but there has to be a special kind of mindset to be able to win over and over and over again. So how do you put your mind right when you're about to compete?
It's Dr. Linert, it is really it's bizarre. It is always, butterfly time. I always have intestinal distress before every race. That's probably TMI, but oh well, we are what we are. And every single time I think, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't do this, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the gun goes off, that sort of competitive nature takes over. And I'm not really competitive in any other part of my life. I'm pretty easygoing and I love to watch other people do amazing things and more power to you. But for whatever reason, maybe because race walking is such a strange, sport and there are so few of us who are actually doing it, I really feel compelled to keep it, have it be sustainable and keep it moving forward. And so when the gun goes off, I just, I love it. I really do. And that's not true. I really hate it when I'm racing because it's hard. And I feel like, oh my God, I can't breathe. And what am I going to do? And then when it's over, it's just, it's such a huge adrenaline rush. It really is. Even no matter how I do in a race or not, it's just, you've done something amazing for your body and you've been out there with other people your age who are giving it their all. And it's just this great sense of communal euphoria. And I just love it all the time, every time.
Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering, as we get older, a lot of times people say, well, you shouldn't be exercising as much or you shouldn't be exercising as hard. And you said there's 80-year-olds doing this. So my question is, how many days a week are you actually doing the race walking, like just getting ready for races? And should we limit what we're doing? Are we going to break things or hurt ourselves or
Okay, so let me answer the first part. I walk much less than I used to because my second career as a fitness instructor. So I'm teaching classes several mornings a week now at our aquatic center and another adult living facility. So I don't have as much chance to walk as I used to. When I'm training, I'm still doing 2 or 3 or 4 half marathons every year. I race walk them here in St. George or wherever we're competing. And so when I'm getting ready for one of those races, I certainly amp up the mileage. But my typical loop is a 10K, so 6.2 miles. So doubling that really isn't that much of a difficulty to get ready for a half marathon. It doesn't take that long. So I'm kind of always at that kind of level of fitness. And also being a fitness instructor, I'm bouncing around and doing jumping jacks and burpees and all that kind of stuff, several mornings a week. And one day I teach 2 classes in a row. So that's a pretty good workout, 2 hours straight. So I think I'm kind of at a baseline always, and I'll be 70 this year. And I know that a lot of my peers maybe aren't necessarily doing that, but they can. And to answer the second part of your question, no, there's nothing in the world that says stop exercising. I mean, I was just reading some data, as a matter of fact, that for a speech I have to give, and the CDC, the National Institute of Health, Mayo Clinic, everybody that, scientific experts say that we all need 150 hours of at least moderate exercise weekly, which sounds like a lot, but that's really 5 days a week for half an hour. We can do that. And that's brisk walking, or that's, active gardening or dancing or whatever it is that floats your boat and feeds your soul. It doesn't have to be doing a marathon or a triathlon or whatever. It can be, walking in the pool quickly. It can be all kinds of things. And half an hour a day is really, really a minimal amount to stay healthy. And then you can ramp it up from there. And as I said, we have people who are in their 80s and 90s, and they may not be the fastest people out there, but they're out there and they're not getting injured. They're doing very, very well. And their sense of empowerment and self-worth is through the roof. It's just, you can't top it when you watch them come over the finish line. And if somebody is 95 and they're the only person that shows up, they're going to get the gold medal that day. So that's a pretty cool thing, and that's part of it. The older you get, if you just have to outlast your competitors and you get more medals, it's great. It's great.
That is great. And it's true. I mean, I like to do CrossFit, and
Ooh, that's serious.
I feel like I'm tough,
Now that's,
but I mean,
I've never tried that.
I feel confident when I do that.
I've never tried CrossFit. I've watched a couple of, there was a cage next to the gym where I used to work out in California, and I'd watch those people and think, holy smokes, they are crazy. And I don't think I have the stamina for that, but who knows, maybe. Never say never. So my crown's off to you for that, for sure.
Yes, yes. And also I used to be in a pool workout, and I remember there was a few people there that, one was badly injured, and another guy, he had a cane, and he could, when he was on land, he could just barely get
exactly
the pool with his cane. I mean, just struggling, but he'd get in that water, and I'm telling you, he was working out hard.
Well, that's what I teach, is water aerobics, and I'm up on the deck on the concrete, and all the students are in the pool. And in our our aquatic center, sometimes I have 50 people in the pool. It's crazy. And some of them, as you said, they come out with walkers or canes, and they're struggling, and you think, holy moly, how are they ever going to get through this? And they get in the water, and they're buoyant, and they're happy, and they feel supported, and the water's warm, and they just, it's just miraculous to watch. And they do, there are some people there that have been coming there for 15, 20 years, 5 mornings a week. They are tough. And the classes that I teach are pretty tough. I don't really try and go easy because, they're seniors, I have to do that. I make them move. and most of them do, and they really, really do. They're not just hanging around, yakking with each other. There's socialization for sure. That's a big aspect of it, but they're there to move. And man, they are tough. And I have to believe their cardiovascular systems are amazing. They really are.
Yeah. And then what about when we get injuries? Like you said, you had the neck injury, and if I remember, you were also diagnosed with cancer.
Breast cancer.
So I'm sure there was times with that. So what do you do to overcome that, and how should we take care of ourselves when those things are happening?
I think I will maybe use the breast cancer as an example, which was actually right after I competed in my first pageant. I knew there was something going on during the pageant, but I kind of pushed it off until afterwards. I had found a lump. And so I was diagnosed in February of 2020, just when everything was shutting down because of COVID. So that was an interesting time. But I made a vow right away that I was not going to be a victim. And fortunately, my particular cancer was a very early stage. It was stage 1. They were able to get clean margins really easily through a lumpectomy. My lymph nodes were not involved, which was a huge blessing. So I just needed the lumpectomy and then radiation, and I was good to go. And I made a real strong vow that I was going to continue to be as active as I possibly could, as much as I was physically capable of. And so I would walk my usual trail every morning, and then go change my clothes and take a shower. And when I take a shower, I can change my clothes and go to my radiation treatment at 3:00 every afternoon. And my husband took me to every single treatment and every single appointment, and God love him for that. And I continued being active the entire time. And 2 weeks after I finished, I did a half marathon because I wanted to celebrate. I went out for a walk, and I had my walk on my cell phone, and I thought I'll do 8 miles. Maybe I'll do 10. Oh, why not? I'll just do 13.1. And I did, and it felt terrific, and it was such a celebration of what I had just finished. And so, all of that said, my oncologist told me that attitude and that commitment to staying fit and active and healthy was really what got me through as easily as possible. It could have been, maybe more traumatic, but it gave me a way to focus on something else.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if someone thinks they might have something like that, or if they're doing a self-examination and they feel something, it's always better
Go.
just to check it out.
Go, exactly. I'm a huge advocate, obviously, now for breast health and for women taking control of that. I didn't uh, go when I should have, and actually, when I finally called to get a mammogram, I was told, "Oh, you're on Medicare. It hasn't been a year since your last mammogram. You have to wait for a couple more months." Which probably should have said, "I'm sorry, but there's an issue here. Can you please see me now?" But I waited another couple of months, and fortunately, my tumor was very slow growing. But that could have been maybe not so good if I'd waited. But in my case, it was okay. Thank goodness. So yes, ladies, if you see something or feel something, get in there, because it doesn't have to be a death sentence, and it can be dealt with. It's not a picnic, but you can deal with it pretty, gracefully and easily compared to what the longer term impact would be.
Exactly. So, we've been talking about you kind of doing things with your husband, and it seems to me that your husband is very supportive and helpful, and you've been together like 20 years now.
22
So,
years. Yeah.
so how do you find a wonderful man, one that supports you, you support him, and you're actually still together after 20 years?
We actually met online, believe it or not. This was back in 2020. I'm sorry, 2000, excuse me, 2000. And he had just moved to the Bay Area from another city, and I was there. And I had been single for about 5 years, and I was okay with that. I didn't think I was ever going to get into another long-term relationship, and I was totally comfortable with that. And we met online. It took me about 6 months to agree to have a first date with him. We've told this story too many times, but long story short, this was the very, very beginning of what was then matchmaker.com. It's now match.com.
Mhm.
And if you sent in a digital picture, you could get like 3 months free. So this was in the advent of digital cameras, and Doug had been at work, and somebody took a picture underneath fluorescent lights with a 1 megapixel camera, and he wasn't smiling, and it wasn't a great picture. He's a very, very handsome man, but he just looked a little scary. And so we always joke now that I saw him and thought he was an axe murderer. So and he would write these really, really articulate, funny, wonderful, wonderful messages. And I think, oh my God, it's the axe murderer. And I wouldn't go out with him for a number of months. And then finally, when I did, I saw him and I thought, oh my gosh, why did I wait so long? And by the second date, I was totally in love, and that date never ended, and we've been together now for 22 years. So it's kind of wonderful. And this year is our 20th anniversary, which will be really, really wonderful.
Wow. So
Yeah.
now you have a new role. You have a crown on your head. You have a new role. What's your actual title?
I am Miss Senior Universe.
Mhm.
It is. Oh, yes, right here.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful. What do you call it? Not a
Sash.
sash. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yes, so I have the new title, and I am hopefully beginning to embark on a speaking career, as you are as well. And my goal is to connect with as many, particularly people of my colleagues my age, to share the message that whatever the number is on your driver's license does not matter. It's how you think about yourself, and getting past those limitations that society puts on us. We can still be active. We can still be healthy. We can still get back to our communities. We have cumulative life experiences at this age that are incredible and invaluable. And people need to know that we have a lot to share. Again, American society kind of believes that, after 30, we need to go away somewhere and sit in the Barcalounger and give up. And I don't believe that. My life really began, I think, in my 50s, and it is just getting better and better every day. I'm excited to be turning 70. I get to be 70 this year. Yay. And I think, certainly, having been through cancer gives you a different perspective on that. You really appreciate birthdays, as the American Cancer Society says. But I think that the best years are really ahead, and I want to be an advocate for that and share that message.
Exactly. And if people wanted to connect with you, either for speaking, or if you can tell us, I know you're doing things locally. So just kind of tell us, this is a place where you kind of go down the line. Okay, this is where you connect with me with the race walking. This is where my website or my whatever contact information you want to tell them, and how they can connect with you and what you're offering now.
Sure. I think the easiest way would be to connect through the Miss Senior Universe website. And I also have a Facebook page, which is Marianne Hamilton, Miss Senior Universe. And anybody is welcome to DM me there. We also have the misssenioruniverse.org website, and there's a place for contacting us there. And you can reach me through our pageant director, and he'll relay the information. And then, of course, Senior Games, seniorgames.net. That's the website. Love to hear from all of our athletes and would-be athletes and interested athletes. And our next events will be in October of this year. They're always the first 2 weeks of October. We typically have close to about 12,000 athletes in St. George. And again, we have about 35 different sports, everything from triathlon and half marathon to lawn bowling and cowboy shooting and all kinds, everything in between, pickleball, you name it, baseball. We are the largest amateur softball tournament for people over 50 in the country. It's amazing. So registration is still open for the Senior Games, seniorgames.net. Registration is open for the next pageant for Miss Senior Universe and Miss Senior USA. So that's misssenioruniverse.org. So I encourage anybody who's interested to log on, take a look around and see what you think, and reach out to us if you have questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. I'm just writing that down so I can put it in the show notes later.
Okay, great.
So just a personal question for you. What
Yes.
gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
Oh gosh, that's easy. It's always, and this is going to sound very, very trite, but it's always being of service to other people. I think certainly that was what the connection initially was with the Senior Games, which was to be a part of putting on the games and helping everybody have a really positive experience. And I've been a volunteer for many, many, many years, since before we moved here. And, that's a great way to make friends and get involved into a community. Volunteers are typically pretty nice people. And so when you connect with that community, you have an ready-made group of contacts and people to go do things with you share similar interests, and they're really typically very, very nice and fun to be with. That is how Doug and I got involved in St. George, and we have oh my gosh, a huge circle of friends, and we're involved in all kinds of activities here. So that really all came through volunteerism, and there is nothing that makes me happier than seeing a whole lot of people be happy and enjoying themselves, and knowing that I was in the background somewhere making that happen and making a contribution. That just feeds my soul.
Thank you. And thanks for being on the podcast today and for sharing your stories and your wisdom.
I don't know about wisdom, but I will talk nonstop. Certainly.
Well, thank you so much. And I have one last question.
Yes.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
My best advice on living an incredible, amazing life, I think, is really to embrace what's possible. Get out of your own way. We're all our own worst enemies, our own worst critics. And we listen to those voices that say, oh, no, you can't do that, or you shouldn't be doing that, or you're too old, or you're too this, or you're too that. Just, try and make those voices go away, and really think about the idea that It doesn't matter where you've been, it's all about what's in front of you. And sure, the majority of my years are behind me now, but I really believe that the best ones are still ahead of me, even though they may be fewer than the ones that are behind me. That was all just practice for where I am now. And if you think about every tomorrow as being amazing when you wake up and what's possible, oh my gosh, everything can come your way. I certainly believe that's the way my life has been this last decade or so, last 20 years, certainly. And I think that the next 20 years are going to be even better.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Marianne.
Thank you, Dr. Linert. This has been such a joy. I've had such a blast talking with you.
Thank you. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, much success to you.
Mhm.